Welcome to our USBE Standards and Assessment Committee meeting. We are conducting this meeting both live in person and online. And we're happy to welcome 3 of our board members here in the USBE offices. And I'm sure that we'll be joined momentarily by a couple of more board members. So we will proceed with this agenda. Grateful to our staff members who were here early to get everything set up and ready, even after the lengthy deliberations of yesterday. We appreciate all of their patient efforts to make sure that we're ready to conduct our business. To start things off, once again, we have an opportunity to recognize the achievements and the improvements that are being made in various parts of the agency. And we're very excited today to highlight the USBE Equity Lab. And I'm going to turn the time now to Superintendent Patty Norman to recognize this amazing group of staff members and leaders of learning who have achieved some really wonderful things for kids here in Utah. Patty.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. And I wanted to start by letting everyone know that this is the new mission statement that I'm reading again, and it is the Utah State Board of Education's mission is to open doors of opportunity for all Utah children. And as we look at this is the way in which staff is doing and highlighting the work of the following areas that do deserve recognition towards this end goal. So I'm going to read out the names first, and when I read your name, make sure your camera's on and give us a little wave so that everyone knows who you are. We have Holly Bell, who is the Student and Family Rights Specialist. We have Kristen Campbell. She's a Research Analyst 3 for Teaching, Learning, and Licensing. Susie Estrada for Family Engagement. Dr. James Martin for School Improvement. Dr. Gregory Fern for School Improvement. Val Murdoch, Title I. Dr. Christelle Estrada, Title III, English Learners, Refugees, Immigrants. We have Jordan Green, Data and Research. Sarah Dutre, School Improvement, Special Education. Dr. Max Lang, Title I. Maggie Cummings, School Improvement. Sid Tesh, Administrative Assistant. Now, this is something that is super exciting, and it's about the Equity Labs. The Equity Labs were started in 2019 to provide a professional learning opportunity for local education agencies to review their data, identify disproportionalities in student achievement, and create action plans to support learning and excellence. Holly Bell and Kristen Campbell have worked on the planning and implementing Equity Labs since they began. So Holly and Kristen, in the very beginning, this is when it started, yes. Holly Bell has been the driving force to reach out to districts and charter schools and organize professional learning. Previous Equity Lab topics have included access to highly effective teachers, access to early college readiness coursework, and support for middle school student achievement. Each professional learning opportunity was designed to align with the strategic plan and Utah Portrait of a Graduate. More than 75% of the districts have attended at least one Equity Lab, and many have attended multiple times. In fall 2023, Equity Lab focused on resource allocation for students who are English learners, with emphasis placed on inviting schools that had been identified as, here's some acronyms for you, TSI, ATSI, or CSI. So targeted supportive improvement. Help me with the A.
Additional.
ATSI. Additional, thank you. I thought I would know. Thanks for the help. Additional targeted support and improvement, or comprehensive school improvement. Districts and charter schools that attended were presented with state-level data for students who are English learners and individual school data associated with student growth, student outcomes, and teacher credentials and retention. During the professional learning, districts and charter schools identified restraining and driving forces associated with their self-established goals. And I think that's really important, that those two words. The LEAs got to decide their self-established goals. So it was very personalized. A few examples of identified goals include increasing teacher capacity in Tier 1 instruction, recruitment and retention of highly qualified educators, embracing the needs of students who are English learners, addressing opportunity gaps identified in their data, reducing chronic absenteeism, and strengthening family engagement. Districts and charter schools were given information about USBE resources and research into supporting students who are English learners. Recognition was given to an exemplary leader teacher, John Arthur, a sixth grade teacher in Salt Lake City district, who is one of the few teachers in the state with continuous amazing high growth and success with students who are English learners. John shared practices he uses to help his students succeed. This Equity Lab could not have succeeded without the collective effort of everyone that you saw that raised their hands and expertise provided by our dedicated and very amazing staff. So thanks to all of you, because all of you that were here and are being recognized today played a significant portion in this improvement. And the thing that I also appreciate is this, is when I read that 75% of the school districts have attended at least one equity lab, and many have attended multiple times. This is a choice. This is something that districts raise their hand and say, yes, pick me. We want to analyze our data. This is not something that is being done to them, but is done to support them in the goals that they are wanting to achieve. So thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause.
What a wonderful opportunity to pause and just celebrate the amazing things that are happening for our students in the state of Utah. And we do appreciate so much the tireless efforts of our staff and of our teachers who choose to be involved in programs like this and get the training and get prepared to meet the needs of each and every student who find themselves in this process of learning English and preparing themselves for a bright future. We appreciate the opportunity to extend our congratulations and our gratitude to you for making this happen. And we know that it takes a lot of dedication and a lot of cooperation to have the kind of success that we're having in this area of the USBE Equity Lab. Thank you very much. One more round of applause. So we have here in the boardroom, board member Emily Green, board member Jenny Earl, and myself, Randy Booth. I see that we have Natalie Klein. Board member Klein is online.
Yeah.
She's waving. Thank you, Natalie. And I haven't seen Sarah Reel yet, but I believe that she'll be joining us shortly. As I understand, there is no public comment.
That's correct.
Unless there's somebody online that has joined us that we don't know about. We're happy to hear from you if you'd like to be heard. If not, we have one action item. It has to do with Board Rule 277-910, Underage Drinking and Substance Abuse Prevention Program. It's an amendment and continuation. And we have Elise, Clarissa, and Tanya here with us, and we'd love to have a brief overview and some background information as we discuss this action item. So who'd like to take it away? We welcome you up here to the table.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Clarissa Stebbing. I'm a prevention specialist with the State Board of Education. I am primarily responsible for substance use prevention, so that is why I've been asked here today. I don't know if you wanted to introduce yourself or not.
I'm Tanya Albornoz. I'm the coordinator for prevention and student services.
Great. And just to give you some background information on this, so this rule is coming before you today because it is up for its 5-year review. And it references 2 programs related to substance use prevention. So one is the Underage Drinking and Substance Use Prevention Program. It's a program that is required by Utah law that students in grades 4 or 5, 7 or 8, and 9 or 10 be offered an evidence-based underage drinking and substance use prevention program in their class. And it also references the Positive Behaviors Plan, which is another substance abuse prevention initiative. And it's simply, in this rule, only talks to the reporting requirements, and it doesn't get into the details of that program, which is all in Utah code. I can speak more to what the Positive Behaviors Plan and what the requirements are if you would like me to.
Would you mind if you don't mind?
Yeah, so what that is it's every school is required by law. It's Utah Code 53G-10-407 to have what is called a positive behaviors plan. And essentially what that is it's a plan to reduce the risks associated with substance use amongst youth. So underage drinking, tobacco use, illicit drug use, things like that. And the requirements outlined in Utah code include that the school principal will gather input from students, parents, and staff on what that plan should look like. There are a few elements that it must include, and that includes creating meaningful relationships, addressing peer pressure, and addressing mental health. And then it might look like, so it says it may include creating clubs, service opportunities, just other pro-social activities for students to be able to do in conjunction with those 3 required elements: the creating meaningful relationships, the addressing peer pressure and mental health. And so that's what the law states each school must have, and they are given a stipend that they receive each year, and it is collected through electronic cigarette taxes is how that program is paid for.
And what was that code again that you said?
It's 53G-10-407.
Okay.
Great.
Is that something we could pull up and just look at really quick? That piece of.
So 406 is the Underage Drinking Prevention Program. 407 is the Positive Behaviors Plan.
Yeah, the 407. Can we look that up and just.
So you're saying that 407 is what's driving R277-910. Am I putting that together?
Can I answer?
Please.
Yes, so there's actually 2, so it's 406 and 407 within the rule that is before you today. And all that is mentioned in rule R277-910 related to the Positive Behaviors Plan is just the reporting requirement and what that would look like for LEAs.
Okay, so you're saying the rule is what we are requiring that the LEAs report. I got that wrong.
That's why I say things fast.
So I like that, yeah. Do you want me to start with 406 to go through 406 and then 407, then we can go back to the rule?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to put up 406. Sorry, 405. This is 406 right here. And here's the curriculum participation and requirements that are established for the health curriculum regarding underage drinking and substance abuse prevention program. So I've taken through this. Yeah.
Oh, sure. So the requirements within the underage drinking and substance abuse prevention program in code
Yeah.
is that every LEA offer an underage drinking and substance abuse prevention program to students in grades 4 or 5 and 7 or 8 and 9 or 10. There's specific requirements outlined in the law and in board rule as to what the state board needs to take into consideration when selecting a program that LEAs can use to meet this requirement. And previously in this rule, we had a section that outlined a requirement for the LEAs to report through the annual assurances that this program was being offered to students in their LEA. We have, if you look at the draft that is in backups right now, that has been removed, that requirement in the annual assurances. And it has also, there's also been some dates that are no longer relevant that have been removed as well.
So, well, help me understand, is it just duplicated the reporting requirements, or why did we take the reporting requirements off? Like, well, just, was it inefficient, or was there confusion there with how that communication was happening between LEAs and reporting to us? Like, what was the reasoning there?
Okay, so the reason that it was recommended to remove that reporting requirement was because it was our understanding that within the annual assurances that anything non-federal related was taken out of the annual assurances anyway. And also, there is not a reporting requirement in Utah code for that particular program.
Also, if I might add, this was discussed in the Reports and Requirements Task Force, and that was one of the things that was discussed was, well, they were talking about how it's no longer on the assurances document. They actually discussed putting it back onto the assurances document, so I'm not sure where that discussion went on.
So my understanding is the same. So within the statute, if I pull up the statute right here, it says the state board shall make rules that, and then it says requires an LEA to offer, and then, and then it says, establish criteria for selecting the provider. Let's see what else it says for the state board. We shall qualify. So the role of the state board is in offering, selecting the provider, and then making sure that it is offered, that every LEA does offer the program. So then within the rule, it looks like it went the step further of stating that it had to also be a report. And so it took out the report, but then the LEA said, can you put it on the annual assurance? And usually they're asking for that to be able to remember and to,
May I just clarify?
Yes,
It was a little bit confusing because the rule references two completely separate programs. And that does make it a little confusing that they were placed in the same rule when they are separate programs. And so the code requires a report for the positive behaviors plan, but it does not require a report for the underage drinking and substance abuse prevention program. And so that is the difference. And so the task force, the report and requirements task force, did speak more towards the positive behaviors plan and didn't really discuss the underage drinking and substance abuse prevention program last week.
So do you envision a day when we actually wrap our positive behavior program, our other 4 or 5 plans we have out there into one plan that actually says this is the direction a school will take, and it includes all this? You know what I mean? I'm talking even like what our school community councils, they have a plan of priorities for X, Y, and Z. Then we have this plan, right? Then we have, it seems like we have all these individual plans out there that, why are they not one plan, right?
May I answer that, Chair?
Please.
So Tanya Alberno's coordinator for prevention and student services. So that is what our effort was last year with the prevention block grant. So if you remember,
To simplify.
we passed the block grant statute so that LEAs could have one comprehensive prevention plan. It is an opt-in program. It's something they choose to do. It's not required. So if an LEA opts in, they can have that one plan that covers all of those pieces. And so we have had quite a few LEAs express gratitude for that and opted for that opportunity. So, yes.
Can I ask a question? It seems to me like I remember that this particular one, the alcohol and substance abuse prevention plan, was separate from the block prevention program. Is that accurate? And if so, why was it kept separate?
Are you referring to the underage drinking?
Yes, the one we're looking at. Mm-hmm.
This is underage drinking. That's, yeah. that's
Rules
awesome.
of regulation.
So the underage drinking is, the requirements, as Chris has explained, are basically that we're going to offer 4th and 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th, or 9th and 10th materials to students to prevent underage drinking. So that's not a grant program. That's, you want to go ahead?
May I expand on that a little bit as well? So the underage drinking and substance use prevention program is, I suppose you could think of it more as curriculum, where it is offered within the classroom, and generally each student are receiving or participating in that program. And that one is a specific evidence-based program that has been selected by the board, versus all of these other plans are, I guess, more targeted and more tailored to the specific needs. And so there is a little bit of a difference.
So all schools participate in the one, right, as a requirement. All schools have to do 4th or 5th, right? So it's not, that's why it's not a grant program, is because you don't apply for the money. The money is
Right.
given to you. You have to use it for these programs, right? Okay.
Yes, it is, yes. And just to maybe expand on that a little more, with the underage drinking and substance use prevention program, there's a requirement in code that the program that's selected be in line with the core standards. And so there is an alignment with the particular program that has been selected with the health core standards. And it's not a complete alignment. We have we've worked with Jody Parker, the health education specialist, to put together resources for health education teachers to make sure that anything that the Botman Life Skills Training Program, which is the program that was selected, is anything that was not in alignment with the health core standards, or that if there was missing any pieces, that they would be able to supplement that so that the health core standards were also met as well.
So one thing that I am not putting together yet, are these both required then, the underage drinking and substance abuse prevention program along with the positive behaviors program? So every LEA is required to implement both programs?
Correct.
Okay, and then let's see, we had that you're saying that by taking this part out, which one of the two? I'm understanding that the underage drinking and substance abuse prevention program doesn't have to be reported to fill in the blank, to USD. Is that right? Or what committee or
Okay,
department?
the answer. Yes, so that would take out the requirement that they would no longer need to annually report to that on the annual assurance document. And so they would no longer have to have that reporting requirement.
Okay, but do they have to report about their the positive behaviors program? And what reporting has to happen for that, and to whom?
So yes, there is a reporting requirement for the positive behaviors plan as outlined in code. So I'll give you two answers to that. In code, it requires that each of the schools report to their local governing board about their positive behaviors plan each year. And then it also requires that they report to the board that every school within the LEA's jurisdiction has a positive behaviors plan in place. And the rules suggest that they report to the State Board of Education through the annual assurances document.
Thank you. Elise, you have a comment?
Sure. I was also just gonna note that, so again, two programs, we've got the positive behavior supports, and then we've got our positive behavior plan and then the underage drinking. One of the reasons that staff felt like we could take out the reporting requirement for the underage drinking was because it goes through a vendor. All of the programs go through the vendor. And so we're still, as an agency, able to collect the information that yes, all of these schools are fulfilling the legal requirement as required by code. And so we wanted to make sure that we could still ensure that everyone is following the law, but without adding extra burden to our LEAs to fill out additional reports and things like that. We were trying to find the most streamlined way to address that. So
Thank you.
So when the underage drinking, I'm putting this together. Underage drinking, then that program goes through a vendor. And so tell me the way that vendor report is handled then. So does the vendor report to whom, or does the LEA report to somebody and says that this is the vendor who we're using? Check.
May I respond? So there is one program that this State Board of Education has approved to meet this particular requirement. And so what happens is the prevention office takes care of orders from the schools and districts. So for example, there are student guidebooks that go along with the program. And so every year, schools and districts are submitting order forms to the prevention team's office. And then we review their order forms and send those off to the vendor, and then we are invoiced for that. So we ourselves are able to look at who is ordering and who isn't. And if there's somebody who isn't ordering, we are able to follow up and see what's going on and see how we can support them in meeting this requirement.
Yes, do we have a vendor? Have we chosen a vendor? And if so, who is that? And the student guidebooks that are produced by the vendor for the program, where can we view those?
Go ahead.
So yes, we recently renewed a 5-year contract with Botvin Life Skills Training is the program. The
Life
company
skills
is
training?
Botvin Life Skills Training. And that program and the vendor is actually, they're called National Health Promotion Association. So they're the vendor, and they have this program. And so that program, it was just renewed. The board approved the renewal of that contract to start on July 1st. So this is our second contract with this program vendor.
Okay, so you said these that the vendor their program has to align with our standards on this, right? So that's our health standards, not the national health standards.
It's our health standards. And we do have to, teachers still need to supplement it doesn't encompass all of our Utah's health core standards. So teachers do still need to supplement with additional curriculum.
So is the student guidebook tailored just to our health standards and not just a guidebook that Botkin Life Skills Training uses for students across the country? Are they using a different student guidebook just for Utah? Have they tailored their guidebook to just Utah's laws?
They have not tailored the guidebook to just Utah's laws. However, I would add that when we put out the RFP, one of the requirements was that the program must be in alignment with Utah's laws.
So has somebody checked the guidebook to make sure that it is not including aspects that are contrary to Utah law?
Yes.
With Botvin, and I guess they would be open if you reached out to them and said this does not align with our standards, they would be open to, right? Am I right in saying that or not?
So, may I answer? Yes. So when there have been questions or concerns about specific elements of the guidebook, the vendor has actually been very open to receiving feedback. And so I've passed along some suggestions and they have, they do have a new guidebook for the elementary coming out that I've been told they've taken into consideration some of our suggestions.
Was that
So,
because it
but I
was
will,
out of alignment before? Were there inappropriate things in it before going out to our kids?
no, there was nothing out of alignment with state law. There were just some suggestions that we thought that there have been reports from the field of, hey, this might be more relevant now. We recommend updating it to the present time to maybe update the scenario, for example.
So are these hard copy guidebooks or is this an electronic guidebook?
There are two versions. One is, it's mostly a physical copy, and that's what most use. There is an electronic version that is an option as well, but most are just using the copy.
So is that if they have to update it or fix things, then we have to replace all of those? And incur the cost of replacing all of the hard copy books?
Are they yearly
Are they-
purchased?
Are they
They're
thrown
purchased.
away, the old ones? Or are they retained?
They're consumables, yeah.
So Natalie, they're consumables from what I understand. So every year they would be
Okay,
purchasing a consumable.
like a
So it's not like a
worksheet writing.
textbook.
It's not a textbook.
Okay, I'm really concerned about the Botman life skills training. I've mentioned this before. I've researched their materials, their website. They're a program vendor for behavioral health standards. It delves into the social emotional learning as well. It incorporates all of that. I would not be in support of, I don't know who approves the vendor. Is that our board that approved the vendor? Is that something that came through on our contracts that we voted on?
Can I ask a question here? Because if it's renewed, it's whoever submits, right? Whoever submits for the RFP is who we evaluate. And then from there, we would pick one of those submissions based on what's required in law, right? Whatever we have required in code they would analyze that. Can you tell me, does the advisory council have a role in picking that, or is that something that is just looked at and gone down the checklist or the rubric, and then they just pick whoever's the best fit for that? Do you know how that?
Yes, may I answer?
Please.
The advisory council, so there's an advisory council outlined in Utah code. They came together and went over the language of the RFP. And then from there, there was a committee of 5 who reviewed the requirements, and the 5 committee members included USVE staff and LEA staff as well. And with this particular RFP, we had one who responded to the RFP, and the committee reviewed that one. That was the Botman Life Skills Training, and saw that it did meet all of the requirements as outlined in law and rule, code and rule, and they were selected.
So what other vendors are out there that produce this kind of thing, or was this RFP written so that Botman was the one that fit the bill?
Natalie?
Huh?
So it would be whatever the requirements are in the law. If someone wanted, I'm just saying, if a legislator changed the law, that would be what gets submitted, right? That's why I was asking. They had to align with the law, and then they would then line up the two.
This sounds like it was probably written as a vendor bill then. If Botman was the only one that responded to the RFP. So
I don't know.
I think my questions are I just want to make sure that what we have, that we have the quality checks for the prevention that it's not, that conversation is happening, because I know, like, I mean, I have a middle schooler, vaping it's a problem. It's a big problem, you know, and kids in the bathrooms just all the time, and it's, I mean, there's just, and then they know how to play the game of discarding, and so they don't get caught. It's, I mean, just there's a whole underground world there that, and so I just want to make sure that we're not replacing some education that our kids need about, especially vaping. I don't even know if cigarettes are a thing anymore for little kids. I think it's vaping. It's way more fun. And they've got all the flavors and their gadgets, and they feel, I mean, it took smoking to a whole new level, and it breaks my heart. And so I just want to make sure today that we aren't just replacing this education for our kids with just more of, like, respectfully, the SCL stuff. I know that they can go hand in hand, but I also believe that taking the time and having the quality education around drug and alcohol use and all of the things associated that build up or that can lead up to that is not eliminated from what we are giving for kids. So that's just my concern. If this is just another SEL program that we don't address the hard issues of drug addiction, then I'm like, no, we gotta have a hard quality check that LEAs are actually discussing these issues, substance abuse issues, and not just doing one more SEL program. It's taking over everything. And so for me, that's where my questions are coming from, that it's not another SEL and it's not another positive behavior that's trumping knowledge and information about something that we need to give our kids. So
May I respond to that?
yeah.
You bring up a lot of good points. Thank you. I wanted to say that the Botman Life Skills Training Program is a substance use prevention program. I've never heard market themselves as a social emotional learning program.
We call it life.
With that being said, the program does teach social skills. It does teach emotional regulation skills. And we know through research that kids who have social skills and who have emotional regulation skills are less likely to go on and to use substances. And so that is why those elements are included within the program that has been selected. The program that has been selected also has a lot of research behind it showing that kids who go through the program are less likely to go on to use drugs, to smoke, to drink while underage. And so they are both speaking specifically to the potential harms and providing that knowledge, as well as giving kids an opportunity to learn and practice skills that have been associated through research. We've learned through research to be more likely to prevent the underage use of substances.
Yeah,
Sure. Yeah.
Please go ahead.
And if you notice, this was updated in 2022. And at that time, the legislature put together a panel, a task force with the HHS, with underage drinking, with a large group. And it was ran by, I can't remember who that was run by. I think it was either the speaker or it was very high concentration. So at that time, they specifically put in the electronic cigarette piece because it used to just refer to substance abuse. And they specifically added that because of exactly what you were talking about. And so that now is becoming part of the requirements, but it's not just one of, but it is specifically addressed along the way. Just for information.
Yeah. Back to my previous question, Board Member Klein. Do we have access, or can somebody send us a link to the guidebook, the new guidebook that's coming out for elementary and the other guidebook for the older kids that is being used, so that we can actually look through that ourselves and see the content?
I'm going to do a maybe and. So yes, I think board members have, and maybe Board Vice Chair Earl, you can help on this, have access to these materials. Let me check with our procurement because we can't just give a link out. But I think, so I'm not sure. So can we check back up? Yes, I know that board members can have access to look at that. I don't know what that looks like because it is a copyrighted program. So that's the one piece to check on. So we can follow up and get you back that information.
While you're at it, I've had lots of things I've wanted to look into, that whether it's through Canvas or Midas or any other curriculum or programs that are offered electronically to our students, or trainings for our teachers, professional development. And I feel as our role on the board, that gives us responsibility for general control and supervision over the public education system, that we as board members should have access to any and all content that is going out or being used in trainings or classrooms with students. And so I would just request that staff get back to us about how we can have logins or whatever we need in order to view any content within the school or within the public education system. I think that is absolutely within our purview to be able to have access. We cannot have general control and supervision if we don't know what's actually out there and being used.
Thank you.
So if I could just ask board members, Natalie too. I just need to know that what has been struck here in this rule, that you're also seeing that that both are kind of quality checked, that reporting. I don't know who it was that said, but she says that it streamlined it. So
So
there,
block grant, yeah.
okay, so eliminating.
It was a lease.
I think it was at least the reporting requirements that have been struck, section 4, that reporting requirement you're saying exists in the law.
For the positive behaviors plan.
Okay, but this one says participation in employment of the underage drinking and substance abuse.
That requirement is not in statute. That was just something that was put into rule.
I see, okay.
So, and I think
I understand.
maybe the argument is, just because I've been here just a little bit, is that an assurance you're doing something, like to mark something and say, I'm doing it,
Mhm,
is just one more mechanism that a district has to go through.
mhm.
Meaning that yes, they may have done it, they may not have done it, and I'm not suggesting they didn't do it, but do you know what I mean? It's just this, and the question is it actually doing any good to have an assurance document where they have to, do that? Or, is it just providing the resources and stuff to our districts, which we do, and allowing them to decide how they'll implement it? Does that make sense? I guess we're assuming that the assurance means that it's actually happening or not happening. Does that make, I don't know if it makes any sense, but it's not.
I guess the insurance, that's the thing. And when I say quality check, like, is there an
Yeah.
assurance that this positive behavior isn't trumping underage drinking and substance abuse prevention program? I want to know that both is happening.
I think they're using
I'm not understanding the question.
I know, I don't.
as the prevention.
No, may I provide some information?
Yeah.
So the underage drinking is the one that provides the materials to students.
Okay,
The positive behaviors is a different program where we're gathering input from students, parents, community councils, any relevant stakeholders, and putting together a plan for each school on how we're going to implement positive behaviors plans. So it's not material provided to students. So does that help to distinguish the two programs? And the positive behaviors plan is the one that is required by statute that LEAs report back to us that they're doing. There's no requirement for the underage drinking program or the Botman life skills program to be reported. That is being done.
Can you maybe give an example of what a positive behavior plan is that a school has chosen once they've reviewed everything they need to?
Yeah, I'll defer to
This-
Thorpe to do that.
Is this positive, is this PBI, just PBIS? Or is
It's
it
not
different?
PBIS, it's different from PBIS.
How is it different?
It has its own, may I answer?
Of course.
So in code, there is a definition as to what a positive behaviors plan is, and it is defined as a plan to address the causes of student use of tobacco, alcohol, electronic cigarette products, and other controlled substances through promoting positive behaviors. And so that is the definition of what a positive behaviors plan is. So it might include something like a club or a pro-social activity where students are able to come together and to create meaningful relationships, as well as address learn skills that can promote positive mental health and can promote learning how to deal with peer pressure. So that could be an example of what a positive behaviors plan might look like within a school setting.
Thank you.
So we're talking after school clubs and community service. All things that, in my opinion, are outside of the proper role of school because they are outside of the school hours.
We're talking whatever plan the LEA comes up with input from their stakeholders. So it's individualized to each school and their needs and what their stakeholders says would be helpful in this arena.
And so, but this is something they have to offer, but students do not have to participate. Is that correct?
Correct.
And it's completely designed by the local stakeholders, community council,
Yes.
parents, teachers,
Yep.
at the local school level.
That's correct. And
Go ahead.
Representative Pulsifer was the sponsor of this bill, and she spoke to it a little bit last week at the Reports and Requirements Task Force, that the reason they decided to move forward with this type of legislation and plan was because they did that study, or they had students, parents, they had experts come and testify what would make a difference with with vaping specifically. And one of the things that was brought up in that committee is that unless you make a difference with the underlying reasons why students are vaping, you're not going to make a difference with vaping. And that was the impetus for this bill. And the intention was that LEAs and schools would have full control over their own programs.
Okay.
I guess this is speaking more to the legislation. But if we're trying to address underlying issues, more often than not, it's a disconnect between the student and their family in that relationship. And so I think, if anything, we should be promoting student connectedness and relationship building with their family. Not
And may I respond to that?
not more peers, peer relationships or peer groups or programs.
And may I respond to that?
Please do.
And if that is something that the LEA puts into their positive behaviors plan because of the input of their stakeholders, that is something that's entirely allowable under the statute. They can do that.
Great. All right, what other questions do we have regarding this rule? Any concerns about
I've got a thick skull, maybe I've got a hangover from yesterday. And I've tried to understand this before, and I should have called, just help me in layman's terms, why are we striking 51 through 63?
May I answer that?
please?
The reason we are striking that is a couple of reasons. One is right now it says the report shall be made via the annual assurances document, and it was removed from the annual assurances document recently when there was a move towards only having, I believe, federal requirements on that annual assurances document. Am I understanding that?
I don't think it was just federal. I think it was just I know it was gone through, recommendations were made. This one we don't need insurance for this, and this. These ones are the key things we need assurances for. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Okay. So it was eliminated from that. And then also we looked at, okay, is this a requirement in code for it to be reported on? And it wasn't a requirement in code for it to be reported on. And then thirdly, we looked at, is there a way to learn whether or not LEAs are fulfilling this requirement without them having to report? And we determined that because we're receiving orders from them, we can make an assumption that if they are submitting order forms to us for their student guidebooks every year, that they are implementing the program. So there is an assumption on our part, but I feel like I can get a general sense of who is actually implementing based on those order forms.
If you're seeing that people aren't, like LEAs aren't, is it a phone call that you make? Like, do you actually make a phone call and say, hey, what's going on?
Yeah, so when may I answer? So when we implemented when there was a requirement to add the elementary program in the 4th or 5th, that came later. And I went through and could see who was being trained and who wasn't, and which LEAs were participating and which weren't. And so yes, they did actually receive, first they received some emails. And then if there wasn't a response or a change through the emails, then yeah, I did make a lot of phone calls too. So, yeah.
So it may be reducing the amount of effort on the local district's part, but it certainly sounds like it's not reducing your amount of follow through.
Correct.
So making sure that what needs to be done is done.
I would move that the committee continue and approve R277910 draft 1 on first reading and forward to the board for continuation and approval on second and final reading.
I do
Thank
have a couple more questions.
Yes, Natalie.
So, and it's the part that was just up on the screen. I don't know where it went, but you know that the LEA plan had to be approved by the superintendent. Is that correct? That's how I interpreted the part that was on the screen. Because it is, and I don't have it in front of me now. Back to the actual rule.
Yeah. Sorry, I just had to get that motion right down. And then go back to the rule.
Yeah, if you want to go back to the rule where the strike.
Right here. Oh, no, right. Go back to where you were right there. So as prescribed by the superintendent. So an LEA governing board shall submit an annual assurance to the superintendent confirming that each school under the governing board's jurisdiction has an approved positive behavior plan as prescribed by the superintendent. So this is the positive. So it's the superintendent has to approve their positive behavior plan. Is that correct?
Yeah, Elise has her hand raised. Elise has her hand raised.
Elise.
Sorry, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, Clarissa, but the plans are approved at the local level. So the local governing board, if it's a charter, it's their local board. If it's an LEA, then it's their local school board. And then Pulsifer's intent and what the code says is that all the USBE needs to know is that there is a plan. So we don't see the content of the plan. We don't approve the content of the plan, but we just know that there is a plan in place.
That's
So the local board creates their own plan and votes on it.
So the schools do, right?
Yeah.
The schools create the plan, the local board votes on it and accepts it.
Okay, all right.
So each school will have their own plan.
Yeah,
Is that
okay.
accurate?
I don't know if that could be worded to be more clear, so that that's more obvious. I'm not going to make a motion on that, but it could maybe use a little more clarity. And then my other question was, I think somewhere in here it says that it has to be a vendor that has proven to be able to successfully reduce underage drinking and substance abuse. So how do we gauge that? Do we have data that their program has actually successfully reduced underage drinking and substance abuse? And if so, what data are they using to make that claim that they have actually successfully reduced underage drinking and substance abuse.
May I respond?
Please do.
So this, the vendor, the Botman Life Skills Training Program has been studied and researched for, I believe it's about 4 years. And so they are, there's a number of research articles in the, you can look in the literature and see their studies. They're on a number of different evidence-based program directories that also indicate that they have evidence and research showing that their program is effective in reducing underage drinking and substance abuse. And they do have, you can go to their website to see that research as
Is
well.
this independent research from somebody not associated with Botvin itself, or is this their own research?
Both. It's a combination. It's been researched quite a bit.
Can you send us that research, please? I would like to see the data and the questions and how they ascertained that, because I don't know how, are they doing cohorts and following up years later? I would like to see the strength of the research.
I can speak to that, right? Like, yes, there have been studies where they have looked at a group of students who received the program and a group of students who didn't. And I know there is research where they have followed up, I want to say up to 12 years later, but I would need to just double check that exact number.
So you can send that, that would be great.
Great. All right, so you'll send a link.
Along with the actual guidebooks that are being used. And for now, I will not be voting on this. I will have to see that data before it comes to full board, before I can.
Board Member Klein, you can go to their Botvin Life Skills Training under their research, their heavy research evaluations. I think they're one of actually the few in the nation that actually have conducted their research.
I just know there's a lot of organizations that have in-house research or spin-off
check and
groups
see.
that they use because it's ultimately a business that they're just trying to sell, and so they've got to, you know, have what looks like evidence-based or research that makes it look legit. So not saying that it's not legit, but I just know that a lot of these organizations, that's how they operate in order to sell their business.
There's 5 pages of evaluation studies here on the website.
That's what I'm saying. And Botvin's name is there. I don't know I'm just saying on some of these. So, but at the same time, you can't disqualify it either. So you've got to dig deep into it and see what it actually is.
Yeah.
Yeah, the program is on a registry that requires that the studies be independently verified and that somebody else other than. So that's helpful.
That is, thank you. All right, so we have motion from Board Member Earl that the committee continue and approve R 277-910 draft 1 on first reading and forward to the board for continuation and approval on second and final reading. Seeing no further discussion or question, let's vote. Those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And Natalie?
I'm no.
Okay, thank you. So that's 4 ayes. Board Member Reel joined us, and 1 in opposition, Board Member Klein. All right, so we appreciate the follow-up that you agreed to give us some more information, and that will be helpful to us. And the link or the permission to view the guidebook, that'll be helpful. And I believe that is everything that we needed to accomplish today. And so unless you want to bring up some additional agenda items.
Some stuff.
Are we talking about math later today? I think.
We are not today.
That's in a future special.
It'll have to be on a future one.
Okay.
So.
So our next meeting is at 1, is that right? Or
Yes.
12?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. Okay, great. Well, then this meeting's adjourned. Thanks to everyone. Look forward to seeing you next month.
Thank you, Jerry.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
just want to say, wouldn't it be nice to have this much time?
Will you make
to be able
sure?
to
Thank
ask
you.
and do these?